Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. Sorry it's been a while, but I'm back with the best of Magic the Gathering Precon Decon Part 2. So this is where I look back over all the precons I've looked at within a certain time frame and decide which was the best precon out of each set. So we're going to look at Season 2, like I said, so that is the 2003-2008 period there. That is going from 8th edition all the way up to Eventide, so a lot of sets, so this is going to be a bit of a long video, so settle in, we might be a while. I'll try and keep it brief so we don't go on forever, but man, it's just super fun to go back and look at some of these old decks and talk about them again and bring up kind of topics of conversation I wanted to bring up at the time and I didn't, but yeah, let's just get on with it and look at Season 2 decks. So yeah, like I said in the Season 1 video, I have done kind of top and bottom 5 videos for each of these seasons, but in this one I'm looking at literally every set and talking about which is the best precon out of each of those sets rather than doing a total like top or bottom 5. So yeah, it just means I get to talk about more decks, which is fun, just get to revisit them. And when we're talking about best, obviously that is a very subjective term. Best could mean it's either the strongest or it's my most favorite out of the selection, and it could be my favorite because it is the strongest, or is the strongest because it's my favorite, and it's a whole Ouroboros of just where does strongest begin and where does favorite end, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just the one I like the most, and my opinion is going to be different from yours. I would love to obviously hear people's opinions in the comments. Which are your favorites out of these sets that we look at? So we're going to start first with 8th edition, July 2003. What a magical time that was. This was the 10th anniversary of Magic the Gathering. So we've got the 5 decks in here. So we've got Life Boost, which is mono white, Sky Slam, which is mono blue, Expulsion, which is mono black, Speed Scorch, which is mono red, and Heavy Hitters, which is mono green. As these are core set decks, they're very simplistic. They're only 40 cards in the first place anyway. They're pretty, they're all straightforward. They're all doing very iconic things that the colors did at the time. So the white one is just full of life gain and weenies. The blue one is full of bounce and flyers. The black one is full of discard. The red one's full of burn. Pretty iconic stuff for new players to pick up and learn and play. And it's kind of hard with these ones actually because they're so basic, they're so straightforward. Like none of them really jump out at me. But I'm actually going to say I think the best one was Expulsion, the black one, just because it had quite a few copies of Ravenous Rats. It had Megrim, so I think out of the 5 8th edition decks, this was the one that was more like, I guess, starting to verge into more like a proper constructed deck rather than just like a pile of random cards. This actually had like synergies and stuff like, like Ravenous Rats that makes you discard, and Megrim damages the opponent when they discard. And I don't know, I just think there's a bit more going on than the other ones, which I think are a bit more basic, a bit more straightforward. This at least sort of shows the mechanics of Magic and the interactions and synergies between cards, which I think is important to show off to a new player. Right, move on to not a proper set. I was going to say a proper set. That's not fair to 8th edition. Mirrodin, October 2003. Interesting about Mirrodin actually. I never really mentioned it at the time, but this was, I want to say it was the first time we went to a whole new plane that wasn't Dominaria. I think I want to say so that was kind of like a big deal. Anyway. So we have blue and black Bait and Bludgeon, which was the affinity deck, white Little Bashers, which was the weenie equipment deck. Basically, a lot of these sets going forward are going to have a mono white weenie deck that does some sort of twist on the gimmick. Sacrificial Bam, which is black red, sacrifice artifacts, and Wicked Big, which is mono green, just like big fatties. I think generally, well, Wicked Big is okay, but like it's just nowhere near as good as the other 3 because it doesn't show. I went on a lot on this about in the video where I looked at it, and if you're just stumbling onto this video, I have actually made individual videos for each of these decks if you do want to find them in the playlist and watch them. But the whole thing with Wicked Big and most of the green decks in Mirrodin is that they're not showing off like the fun stuff of Mirrodin, which is artifacts. Whereas the other 3 do a much better job of it. And the one that does, I think, the best job is, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but it's Bait and Bludgeon, which is the blue-black affinity deck, because affinity was so good. This was, I think, out of the other 3, not counting Wicked Big, obviously, this was probably the strongest one. Sacrificial Bam was really, really good, but affinity is just, it's crazy. This is really good out of the box, and this is one where if you bought 2 of them and mashed them together, yeah, you had like a really good solid foundation, and just everyone was playing affinity at the time, I remember. But yeah, really good deck. All right, going to Darksteel, February 2004. So we had Mono Red Master Blaster. This is kind of like a mid-range sacrifice artifact deck again, I suppose. Mindswarm is mono black, and it's sort of a focus on discard, I want to say. Swarm and Slam is the green-white tokens deck, and is, spoiler, it's just not very good at all. And the mono blue Transference, which is all about the new Arcbound creatures and the modular keyword. So a little bit of dip in quality, I would say, coming into Darksteel, and that's sort of typically something we see with like middle sets. I would say there's always a little bit of a dip. I'd say, but yeah, like Master Blaster was like kind of okay. Mindswarm is, from what I remember, like a little bit clunky. Swarm and Slam is bad. And yeah, so that means Transference was the best one, like by quite a good margin. Transference was the best one, just because it's just got, again, it's, you know, it's an artifact based block, and it's a time when blue is really, really good with artifacts, and you have all the Arcbound creatures which obviously have such good synergy with each other. Had like Arcbound Crusher in there, which I've found out is actually goes for quite a bit. Arcbound Reclaimer is really good as well. So all these Arcbound creatures that come in with counters, and when they die, you can put their counters on another artifact creature, which is just really, really good. In my video, I did say if you splash some red into this for like sacrifice effects, I think that would have been really good to, you know, sacrifice the modular stuff at instant speed so it could move across as like a kind of combat trick. But yeah, Transference is, I think, by far and away the best out of the Darksteel ones. Right, and then move on to Fifth Dawn, June 2004. So we've got White and Blue Nuts and Bolts, which is a blue-white artifact deck, which focuses on kind of like smaller artifacts. It's kind of about building like a little engine of smaller artifacts, and it's so close to being good. It just needs a few cards, I think, to be really, really good. And basically has all the it doesn't have all the stations. That's the point. That's what could have made it good. It had all the, there was a cycle of these stations, and if you put them all together, basically they form an infinite combo, and that would have been really fun. Special Forces is a blue-black deck which has this really kind of, I don't want to say it's an odd theme. It's just a very, it's a very of its time kind of thing, I suppose. Like you wouldn't really see it in like a Mon set, like a Mon Precon or whatever. But it's the theme is just creatures with either very high attack or very high defense. Or toughness either. Don't want to use defense, but yeah, that's the whole point. It's like, oh, no matter what the situation is, you've got like a creature that's ideal for it because you've got, you know, I do a lot of damage, or you can block a lot of damage, and it's just, it's very weird that's in blue and black, you know. And then you got Stampede, which is a red green, very by the, you know, by the numbers aggro deck. Like nothing really stands out about it all, other than it's got Eternal Witness in it, which was like a pretty good card at the time. And then Sunburst, which is, even though it has all 5 colors on the deck box, it is definitely a mono green deck. You got the Sunburst cards in there, which benefit from having all 5 colors, but all the non-artifact cards are green. You know, the mana base is mostly forests, or, you know, or green mana dorks and stuff. And yeah, this is I'm gonna say it's my favorite one. Because it was the one that I was pleasantly surprised by. I actually kind of regret not picking this one up back in the day when it was out. I think because I'd been scared off by the 5 color decks from Invasion, which weren't super good. But of course, this isn't really 5 color. It's got ways of generating 5 colors for the Sunburst cards, but yeah, it's not this kind of mishmash. You know, one or 2 cards of each color just kind of, you know, mixed together. It's fairly decent, I think, and yeah, and it had pretty good potential to like expand out, because, you know, Sunburst was like, some of the Sunburst cards were really decently good. But yeah, and you had Joiner Adept as a rare, which was really solid. So yeah, really, really like Sunburst. Right, move off at Mirrodin, then we're going to go into Champions of Kamigawa. This October 2004. Definitely a dip in power from Mirrodin, unfortunately. Like, I mean, everyone likes Kamigawa in terms of flavor, but to play it at the time it felt a little bit rough. But anyway, let's take a look. So we got the Black-Green Kami Reborn. This is all about recycling spirits from the graveyard using the Soul Shift mechanic and just getting general spirit craft triggers off casting spirit and arcane spells. Snake's Path, which was mono-green Snake Tribal. Spirit Bane, which was mono red, kind of burn, and had this weird theme as well of like exiling creatures when you destroy them, because then that goes against the spirit soul shift ability, which was, I mean, I guess it's just such a niche thing, and it definitely could have been something else, as I'll say in a little bit. And then mono white Way of the Warrior. So this is the blocks mono white weenie deck, all based around Samurai. And yeah, it's Kami Reborn. I really, really like this deck. This was one of the first decks I bought 2 of and mashed them together, double up. It just had like some really nice stuff. The rares in here not super amazing. You got Long Forgotten Gohei and Inami, But mostly I just wanted double sets of Thief of Hope and Devouring Greed, all the Zuberas, and yeah, it just turned into a pretty decent like black green like recursion deck, like very hard to keep things dead because it would just keep coming back, and you would eventually do like a big sacrifice thing with Devouring Greed and just win that way. Yeah, really liked Kami Reborn. I also want to talk about, as I said, with Spirit Bane, like some decks that I think could have been here. So I'm really surprised there wasn't a deck based around the Unspeakable. You had this whole combo here of like Sift Through Sands, Peer Through Depths, Reach Through Mists, which is this combo to get out the Unspeakable, which, like, obviously to us now, these days, it's not that amazing at all. But, you know, at the time, it was kind of okay. And, like, it's kind of a cute gimmick. You could have easily built a deck around it, like do a blue-red, like, arcane spells. I did actually do that in a video. I did a kind of a what could have been in Kamigawa, and this was one of the ideas I had. Yeah, as I said. Another idea actually that got brought up in the comments of one of those videos was one I really regret not picking up on, but it was a green-blue land ramp deck using Azazar Lost by Seeking and Meloku, the Clouded Mirror. So you would just use Azusa and Meloku just to make a whole bunch of like lands, because you weren't missing land drops, because you got Azusa. Meloku can turn the lands into then illusion tokens, and I think that would have been just like a really fun idea for a deck, and yeah, that definitely would have won out. That probably would have been really, really strong. But yeah, just want to mention it because it was such a good idea at the time, and I wanted to just raise it there. All right, then we got Betrayers of Kamigawa, February 2005. So we got Black Red Dark Devotion. This was Ogres and Demons, which is, I still hold, is a cool idea in concept. The execution, not so much, unfortunately. It was a little bit clunky. Ninjutsu, which is the mono blue ninja deck. Rat's Nest, which is the mono black Rats tribal deck, infamously good because it contained Umezawa's Jitte as one of the rares, which is one of the most sought after cards at the time. And then Green White Spirit Craft, which is just Green White Spirits getting triggers for casting Arcane and Spirit cards. Again, it's pretty by the numbers. So I have to say Rat's Nest is the strongest and the best one out of that set of four, because that Jitte is doing a lot of heavy lifting, you know. Yeah, it's just super good. It's just a super good card, and like this deck was just flying on shelves. Could not find this in any shops, or like shops were like upmarking it because they knew it was valuable. That's not to say like the other rare in the deck, Patron of the Nazumi, like isn't bad, because it isn't. It's okay, but you know, when you've got a precon with Jitte in there, which I say was one of the most sought after cards at the time, and is still pretty good by today's standards. Yeah, like this is a case where like I don't necessarily like it, but I have to say this is the best one. You know, my favorite out of the four, I think, is actually probably the Ninjutsu one. Honestly, and really, in an ideal world, there would have been just a blue-black ninja deck, I suppose, where you would have had Higure and Inkais as the rares. Higure, actually, I was surprised, is like a $20 card at the moment, which is absurd. I've got like 4 of him upstairs somewhere, and I have no idea how he's shot up, but it's probably, I don't know, because of Commander or something, I don't know. But yeah, having Inkais, that could have been a cool extra rare, and then I don't know what you would have done as a 4th deck instead, but yeah. That would have been something, I suppose. And then Saviours of Kamigawa. Unfortunately, I have to talk about Saviours of Kamigawa again, which is such a disappointing set in a lot of ways, because it's just not very good. But then we got Black Red Critical Mass. And this is sort of like a very mean black-red iconic, like sort of control option. So like land destruction and discard, but it's all using kind of bad Saviours of Kamigawa cards, where a lot of it is depending on how many cards you've got in hand. And this is at a time in the game where black and red just don't have a lot of card draw. So a lot of your things are like, oh, it does something depending how many cards you've got in your hand. Just like, yeah, but I'm drawing 1 card a turn. Like, and do you want me to not play my cards then to make the other cards better? It's just, yeah, it's not very wonderful. You got Soratami's Wisdom, which does sort of the same thing. At least it's in blue-white, and blue at least has obviously better card draw. But it's full of the Soratami, and their sort of thing was returning lands to your hand to pay for their effects, which like nobody likes outside of, you know, some obscure combo potential. But it's just, I remember I had this deck and it was miserable because it just had like no way to win. It has like 2 good creatures in it, and if you just don't draw them, then like you just can do nothing. Spirit Flames is like a pretty bog standard like red green aggro deck, but like, you know, it being the thing is like if everything else is like grade D, the C plus looks like an A by comparison. So you can probably know where this is going. And then Truthsakers is another green white spirit deck, and this one is like has a bit of a life gain theme, but it does like nothing with it. All it is just gaining life. And again, it's just kind of limited on what its like win conditions are. So yeah, it is Spirit Flames. The like dumb red green aggro deck is actually the best one out of these four. Just because like the card selection in it isn't terrible. It's not messing around with the Saviours of Kamigawa like wisdom mechanic, like the hand size thing. It's just fairly, for the time, fairly decently good red-green creatures, all using the best that were available. So you had like Jawari in there, who's like an okay repeatable burn effect. Shine of Life's Roar is like so good out of this cycle of the Shinings. It is by far the best one because it's just like a lure effect when you need it, so everything else can get through. But yeah, Spirit Flames is really good just because it's like it's C+, where everything else is, I say, like D-. But and as this is the last time I'm talking about original Kamigawa, I'm going to repeat my thing that I am still to this day very annoyed that we've never had a card representing Tarashi, who's like the Kami of the Sun. It has like 3 cards named after him. But yeah, really really annoyed we never got a Tarashi card. But I suppose I should be grateful that there's a chance they could have done Tarashi in one of the blocks and he would have been a terrible card. But man, just give me Tarashi, Watsy. I just really want a Tarashi card. Right, moving to 9th edition, July 2005. So again, like with 8th edition, we've got smaller decks here. They're all mono-colored. Again, doing very iconic things on color. So mono white weenies and mono blue flyers and bounce, mono black just general attrition graveyard control, mono red burn, and mono green just big creatures. Yeah, not really much to say about them. The best one I'm gonna say is World of Flame, I suppose, just because it's just got some decent cards in it. It's like it is a genuine burn deck, focused around sorceries, because you've got Magnivore as kind of like one of the rares, which can be a big beefy creature. You've got Wildfire in there as a rare, which is kind of spicy. It's actually a decent amount of land destruction in the deck from what I remember, and just burn. So yeah, like again, out of the 5, it's the one that stands out most to me because it seems to be the one that's got like more of a plan, more of a kind of an actual strategy behind it, I suppose. But I say it's you really could like roll a dice with the core sets and just say, yeah, that's the best one because I guess it is. Right. Let's talk about more interesting Ravnica, or Ravnica City of Guilds if you're feeling formal, October 2005. So we got Red White Charge of the Boros, Blue Black Dimir Intrigues, Black Green Golgari Death Creep, and Green White Celestina United. So first time out for all these guilds, and they're all doing their iconic guildy things. So Boros is obviously red white aggro, the Dimir one is blue black control, the Golgari one is black green kind of recursion effects, and dredge infamously, and the green white Selesnya one is obviously all about tokens. Now these are all I was going to say they're all good. They're all better than a lot of the Kamigawa decks, but that is like damning with faint praise. I would say the weakest out of them is the Dimir one, I think. The Dimir one is just suffers from the usual curse that blue-black Precons do, where it's just they're usually not put together like amazingly well normally. But the other 3 I think are really good, like the Boros, Golgari, and Selesnya ones are all really solid, I think. In the end, I'm going to say the Golgari one. Just because it's just, I mean, dredge is such a strong keyword. But yeah, you had like Savra in here as one of the rares, and Savra's really good. Savra goes really well with a bunch of cards in the deck. You just grind them out with attrition. And you got Golgari Gravetroll in here, who's also like a pretty good creature. It dies, you dredge for it, you get it back, it comes back even stronger. Yeah, really nice cards in Golgari Death Creep, and you didn't. Again, this would have been a good one to like buy 2 of, double up on the good stuff. Yeah, really liked it. And then Guildpact, February 2006. Only 3 decks in this one. So Code of the Orzhov, which is white-black, Gruul Wilding, which is red-green, and Is It Gizmometry, which is blue-red. So again, these are all doing standard color combination things. So the Orzhov one is kind of white-black control, not really doing a whole bunch of life drain as such, because I guess that wasn't. There are some life drain effects in there, but it wasn't as much of a thing at the time. The Gruul deck is very weirdly focused on auras rather than the Gruul bloodthirst keyword. It goes down a whole different route, which is very strange. I'm not sure it was the best idea. And the Is It one is like blue-red spells, but the Is It like replicate spells are not amazing, I suppose. So again, this is one where like they're all kind of mediocre, honestly. In the end, I went with the Orzhov one just because mostly again the strength of like some of the cards in there. So Taser is obviously like really, really good in there. You've got Agent of Masks to do the life drain effects. I think it's got like some Mortifies in there as well, which is obviously a really strong spell. But yeah, it just about edges out over the other two. The Guildpact ones I thought were just a little lacking, honestly. Right, then we go into Dissension, May 2006. So we got Azorius Ascendant, which is white-blue, Rakdos Bloodsport, which is black-red, and Simic Mutology, which is green-blue. So the Azorius one is mostly flyers and defenders, and you would expect blue-white to be kind of like soft control. It doesn't do an amazing job of it, if I remember. Yeah, the Rakdos one is, I'm just gonna say the Rakdos one is pretty bad because it's just Hellbent, and Hellbent is not amazing. It goes weirdly down a controlish sort of route. It's quite slow, whereas you'd expect a Rakdos deck to be quite fast, quite aggressive. And the Simic one is obviously all about their graft keyword, so +1/+1 counters, moving around, giving benefits to things with +1/+1 counters. You can probably guess where I'm going. Yes, I like the Simic Mythology one, just because I like green blue. That's my favorite out of those three. +1/+1 counter stuff is always really interesting. You got Protean Hulk as one of the rares, which is pretty good. You haven't really got a way to abuse it in here. It's not like you got instant like sack effects or anything really, but yeah, it's a fun rare to include. But mostly it's all about the +1/+1 counters, grafting stuff, and getting all the benefits from turning all your stuff with +1/+1 counters into some sort of super combi creature, I suppose. All right, then we move into Coldsnap, July 2006. Weird little Coldsnap, the set that should never have been, but somehow is. And there was the whole weird thing of what's he saying, like, oh, we found the missing design files from Ice Age block. We're going to finish Ice Age block with these, but they're new cards. It's really, really interesting if you look into like the whole story behind Coldsnap. It's such a weird little like summer product, and yeah. So these decks are kind of unique because they are using new Coldsnap cards, but also a lot of old Ice Age and Alliances cards, which maintain their original art but got reprinted in the modern frame, which was, I want to say, like one of the first times that had happened. Kind of a frame swap or something. We obviously get it all the time these days, but yeah, at the time it was kind of, I guess, a new thing. Anyway, so we got Aurochs Stampede, which is red-green deck, focuses all on Aurochs, which were kind of a obscure little tribe of these yak buffalo things, which were in original like Alliances and Coldsnap, and just giving some more Aurochs. So when they attack, they will get bumped up by all the other Aurochs. They're kind of like cow slivers, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. And there was definitely more room. They could have done more Aurochs, but it's fine as is. Beyond the Grave is a gender-colored one. It is a lie, though, because it's mostly black-red. There is, like, I think one green card in there, which is Set Kuar, who's like on the box here, and he's triple color anyway. But this is kind of like a reanimator, just general black-red control deck kind of thing. Keldoran Cunning is white blue. This is actually really heavy on the Alliance and Ice Age reprints, and there's some really nice ones in there. I think you got Counterspell, you got Swords to Plowshares in there, you got Brainstorm. So not, for remember, a huge number of new Coldsnap cards in there, but it's sort of soldier tribal, I suppose. It's got like a few of the Ripple cards in there, which was this mechanic that was in Coldsnap, and yeah, it's okay. It's like just a pretty decent like white blue kind of soft control aggro deck, I suppose. And then Snowscape, which is blue black, and it's all like snow matters, like snow covered lands and like snow permanents. You get benefits for having snow permanents, or you need a certain number of snow permanents out to use abilities. It's my favorite one. I really like this snow stuff. Haidar, I think, is a really cool creature. This is, again, another one I think I bought two of and mashed them together because I just really wanted more snow stuff. I thought it was just such a cool theme. Pun not intended there, but yeah, you just got like some really cool cards in there. I really like Snow has come back in recent sets. Yeah, it's just fun. I think Chilling Shade I used to particularly love. I wanted to highlight there as being like a really decent shade where you could spend Snow mana to pump it up, and yeah, so it's a rare case of a shade being good in a 2-color deck because normally shades are only good when it's mono black. But yeah, really liked Snowscape, but yeah, I'd say the Aurochs deck was pretty good as well, and like the Keldoran Cunning was pretty okay as well. But in the end, had to pick Snowscape because man, I love it. Right, and then going into Time Spiral block 2006. This was a real tough one because I love Time Spiral, and there are so many like good decks in this block. I'd be hard pressed to actually say which one is my least favorite. Actually, that's it's that good, the selection of them. But anyway, we're going to give a try. We're going to try and narrow it down. So we got Fun with Fungus, which is the black green deck. This is all about fungus and thalids and saprolings. Do a lot of bean counting with spore counters. Hope's Crusaders is a pretty solidly good mono white weenie deck. Yeah, that's not much else to say about it. Reality Fracture is a blue red deck that uses a lot of suspend cards and also storm. There's a lot of storm cards in there, and it's all about building up this kind of perfect turn where all your suspend stuff goes off at the same time, and then you cast storm spells, and which are then getting extra copies because all your suspend spells are gone at the same time. Really, really fun. Really good like skill testing deck. And then Sliver Evolution, which is just Naya colors, just a bunch of slivers, a whole bunch of new slivers, some reprints from older sets. Yeah, so these are four like really, really solid decks. Like even the Hope's Crusaders, which is, I'd say out of the four, is like the most boring one, even though that's not a fair word to say, because it's not boring. It's just mono white weenies, which is very functional. It's just no frills, I suppose. But it's like even Hope's Crusaders is like a pretty good deck. So I really had a struggle narrowing this one down. In the end, I went with Sliver Evolutions because I am basic and I like slivers, and because I did get all these decks. I really liked Time Spiral so much as a block, and the Sliver one was just the one I had the most fun with playing and like adapting it, getting more slivers in there. Yeah, and just some of the new slivers are like really good fun. I just really liked it. I just like having a board of slivers, and who doesn't? But I say the others were really good as well. But I had to pick one. Right, then we're going to Planar Chaos, February 2007. So we've got Red, White, Endless March. This is about the rescue creatures. So this whole thing of a bunch of kind of efficiently costed white creatures, where when you play them, you have to return something else to your hand. So like White Mane Lion and Storm Cloud Crusaders, I want to say. But you've got a whole bunch of things in there with vanishing as well. So they're ticking down. So this is the whole thing of the deck of playing your rescue creatures and getting the vanishing creature back into your hand and replaying the vanishing creature. Yeah, it's really good fun. Really liked Endless March. Ixodor's Legacy is like a mono blue aggro deck. Weirdly, it has a big focus on like morph, and yeah, it's very very creature heavy, and it is just about playing a load of morph creatures, getting triggers when you flip them up. Yeah, it's pretty okay. Rituals of Rebirth is fun. It's a Abzan card deck. It is a reanimator deck, and it does a pretty, I think, decent job at being a reanimator deck. It's got a nice load of fatties and like discard outlets for you to get them into the graveyard, so you can reanimate them. You got Teneb as one of the rares, which is pretty good to get one of the new big primeval dragons, which I think is okay. And they got Unraveling Mind, which is black red, and this is all about madness. So in Times Square, you had a whole bunch of new cards with Madness. Yeah, and again, it's just a pretty good like aggro deck where you're discarding cards, you're casting stuff for Madness, you're just getting a lot of benefit and value out of stuff. So yeah, again, like four, I think pretty solid decks. And again, I got all of these at the time. I liked playing all of them. In the end, I went with Unraveling Mind because I think like Madness, I was never used to be super into it. Like I had fun playing it at the time, and it's a mechanic I think I've grown to love more over the years. I think it's just super fun. Just a really nice like design space for black red, feels very flavorful, and it was just fun to see this kind of mechanic that only got used on like 10 cards, I want to say, like back in original Torment, kind of get like another go in the spotlight, which was mostly why I like Time Spiral, just to see these old mechanics get used again. But yeah, really really liked Unraveling Mind. And then finally we got Future Sight in May 2007. So we got Fate Blaster, which is blue red. This is all about Scry, I want to say. This is not where Scry was introduced. Scry actually was introduced back in Fifth Dawn, but like this is where it came back for a bit, and I think they were then starting to play with the idea of using it more in sets going forward. But yeah, this is a deck based all around Scry, which is pretty fun. Future Shock is a really really fun idea. So it's red green aggro, but it only uses cards with the future shifted frame, like cards from future sets or whatever, or and it's like a really fun idea. It does limit itself in the fact there are better cards that could be included, but like it's such a fun gimmick to do, you know? Then you got Rebels Unite, which is the white-black Rebels deck. So got to get Rebels again all the way back from Mercadian Mass days, but now Rebels are in black as well. And this is just doing what Rebels do, which is like recruit themselves, just build up a big board, have a bunch of synergies and stuff. Pretty fun. And then Suspended Sentence, blue-black. So this is again all about suspend, slightly different to the blue-red one, the Fractured Reality one, where this was just you had a bunch of spells that like when they're cast they resuspend themselves, and it's just about that. And like you had a bunch of paradox hazes in the way to give you extra upkeeps, so you know your suspend stuff would go off quicker. Again, four really good, really good decks. I really do think Time Spiral Block just absolutely blew it out of the water with all their precons. So again, this was a hard choice to narrow down. In the end I went with Suspended Sentence because goddamn, I love Paradox Haze and Reality Strobe, and just the eventual dream scenario of Reality Strobe going off, every turn, or potentially even twice every turn, if you get enough things down to give you extra upkeeps or things to strip off time counters from stuff. Yeah, really good. But again, so hard to make a decision on the Future Sight Precons, because I do think they were all pretty good. Right, and then we go on to 10th edition, which was only in July 2007. Like we talk about, actually think about it, we talk about now these days of sets coming out so quickly, but you think about this, 10th edition, that's only about 2 months after 5th Dawn, so there we go. So maybe it's just always been that way, it just feels more like it these days, I guess. Anyway, so again, yeah, it's more core set stuff. 40 card decks, monocolored. The thing I like about the 10th edition ones though is they all have a legendary creature in them, so they feel like kind of like a mini commander or brawl deck, which I think is kind of fun. So you got Chomana's Resolve, which is mono white, Arcanus' Gull, which is mono blue, Evancard's Tyranny, which is mono black, Kamal's Temper, mono red, and Molomo's Might, which is mono green. Again, these are all doing very straightforward iconic things. So mono white weenies, mono blue control, mono black graveyard and creature control, mono red burn, mono green big creatures. Again, not really winning any creativity awards there. But there was, in this one, I think there was one clear winner, and that was Chomano's Resolve, because you got Chomano in here, who you prevent all damage that be dealt to him, and the other owner is Pariah, which is aura that goes on a creature, and any damage that would be dealt to you is dealt to enchanted creature instead. But Chomano prevents all damage that is dealt to him, and I love this because I want to imagine that a new player discovering Magic for the first time picked up this deck because he's like, oh, okay, there's like this cool like priest wizard guy, I guess I'll give it a go. And they played their first few games, and they had the light bulb moment of realizing that Pariah on Chomano is just like, I'm invincible, I cannot lose, you know? And I think that's so important for like like a core set product, something that's meant to be really introductory, to introduce this kind of like synergies and combos and stuff to new players. So yeah, for that reason, Chomano's I think is the best of the 10th edition core sets. The other four I think are fine, but this one, literally because of this combo, I think wins outright. All right, and then we go into Lorwyn, October 2007. So again, this is another one where they're all very good. So Boggart Feast is black-red goblins. Elemental's Path is legitimately, this is generally 5-color elementals. I don't think it needs to be 5 colors. I think this could have easily been like Teema colors. I don't think it needed white-black, but that's a different discussion, I suppose. Black-green Elvis Predation. Mono-white Kithkin Militia, so that's all the Kithkins. And then white-blue Merrow Riverways, which is the Merfolk, and a whole bunch of like tapping, untapping synergies. Again, 5 really good decks. I had all of these, and again, they all played really good. Again, really difficult to narrow it down, especially between 2 of them. In the end, I went with Elvish Predation. Because damn, there's some really good cards in here. You got Natha the Gilt Leaf as one of the rares, and Nath is like a really good, strong control card. Just constant discard on someone, and when someone discards, you make an Elf Warrior. You got Imperious Perfects in here, which were like a super good Lord effect. And just making Elf Warriors as well. Like Imperious Perfect is so good. Like even by today's standards, I think is really good. But it was really tough choosing between this and Merrow Riverways, because the Merfolk deck is also so good, with all the tap and untap synergies. Really fun. Both of them are great, but again, I only had to pick one. Right, then we go into Morningtide, February 2008. So we got White Blue Battalion, so this is soldiers. Blue Black going Rogue, which is rogues. Also a little bit of fairies, but I would say mostly rogues. Then we got Abzan colors for shamanism, which is meant to be a shaman deck. It is, I would say, more tree folk than shamans. This is also another of those thing that annoys me where it's a 3-color deck, but really it is only 2 colors. There is like 2 white cards in here. The rest of it is black-green. Just make it black-green. That would have been fine. And then Warriors Code, which is red-green Warriors, which I thought I'd be an absolute dead set for because Warriors is one of my favorite creature type. But in the end, I really like going rogue. This was like again really fun deck. They had their unique keyword. They had the prowl ability, which is kind of ninjutsu-esque, I suppose. It's just an alternate cost when you get through and do combat damage with a rogue, and then you get usually get an extra effect or you get a cheaper cost. So like Notorious Throng, super good card if you prowl it, because you make a whole bunch of fairy tokens and then you also get an extra turn, which is crazy good. And if you've got Una's Blackguard, all those fairies are coming in with extra counters. Turns all your creatures with +1/+1 counters on them into specters. Yeah, really strong deck. The other 3, honestly, like a little bit disappointing. The Shamanism one is 100% really disappointing. The Battalion one, the Soldiers, is like okay, and like the Warrior one is also kind of okay, I suppose, but yeah, like just there are too many bad selections in there. At the end, going rogue is, I think, by far the best one out of those 4. Right, and then we go into Creepy Lorwyn, Shadowmoor, May 2008. So we got Black Red Army of Entropy, which is all about like -1/- counters and like the Wither ability. White Blue Aura Mastery, which is, as you can expect, all about auras, or it's meant to be. Whether or not it is up for debate. Blue Black Mortal Coil. This is all about persist, I think. So stuff coming back from your, when it dies, it comes back with a -1/- counter on it. Overkill, which is red green. Aggro, but weirdly has like this theme of turning your lands into different land types for uncertain benefits. And then green-white Turnabout, which is all about using untap abilities. And these are all sort of okay. When I was reviewing these, I just didn't find them as exciting as the Lorwyn ones. And might be that because of like hybrid mana makes them kind of a bit homogenous, I suppose, in how they're put together. Because it's a big Colors Matter set. There's a whole lot of like cycles and stuff, so a lot of the cards are very similar, and I don't know, I just didn't find them as exciting, I think. And also I just have like Shadowmoor, like Eventide is just not a favorite block of mine. I remember we had just a few months at the local game store where people were playing a lot of Shadowmoor decks and just everyone's deck looked the same because everyone was just playing the same kind of cards. Anyway, in the end, I went with Turnabout. This one, I think, is quite clearly the best out of the 5. 2 super good rares, Reese the Deemed and Wiltleaf Liege. Both of these are just amazingly good. And yeah, I remember at the time it was cheaper to buy 2 of the Turnabouts and get 2 Reeses and 2 Wiltleaf Liege rather than buy Reese or Wiltleaf Liege individually and then get all the other green-white stuff in there. So it was really good. Green-white, like token untap ability. The untap ability, honestly, is such a minor theme of it. It is mostly just very efficient green-white hybrid creatures and just getting all those benefits. So yeah, I'll go with Turnabout out of the Shadowmoor decks. Right, and then finally going to Eventide, July 2008. So we got white, red-white Battle Blitz, which again I think is more about combat tricks and untap abilities. Green-black Death March, which is sort of like green-black, as you might expect, like sacrifice tokens, that kind of thing. White-black Life Drain, winning awards for like the best and most inventive deck name ever. Which is meant to be Life Drain, and again, it sort of isn't, but blue-red Sidestep, which is kind of about, I guess, unblockable, like evasion effects and switching around power and toughness, I guess. And then green-blue Superabundance, which is, I think it's sort of like a ramp token theme. It's very hard to actually remember what Superabundance is about. I think it's just kind of just generally green-blue good stuff, honestly. So as you can tell from my tone of voice, also wasn't just super excited by these ones either, like the same as the Shadowmoor ones. I just don't think they were as exciting as the Lorwyn and Morningtide ones. But even so, there was obviously one that I preferred out of all of them. It was Sidestep. Which this was a rarity actually, because it was the I think one of the only of the Shadowmoor decks that had both its Spirit Avatar and its Liege in there as well, whereas all the other decks like usually had one or the other. This is the only one that had both, which is pretty good. And there were like some really good, actually, like blue-red hybrid cards in Eventide, so there definitely would like legitimately good options for these. But yeah, it was just a pretty good like blue-red aggro deck. I just am haunted by nightmares of a friend playing, like an optimized version of this where it was like Riverfall Mimic, and then turn 3 do like Clout the Dominus, swing in for like 5 unblockable, and just do that like every turn. So just make games go really quickly. But yeah, I think Sidestep was probably the best out of those Eventide ones, which again they're all kind of fine. But Sidestep just stood out to me mostly because of the two rares being this, but also just some of the other cards in there being okay. So yeah, there we go. That's it. So that's the all the decks from each set in season 2 of Precon Decon, which I decided were my favourites, the best ones out of each set. Some of these are definitely like they're here because I had to pick something. Some of them I think are genuinely good ones. Like I could easily say like all the Time Spiral ones. Like there are definitely decks in Time Spiral or like Planar Chaos or Fifth Dawn, I'd say, which would beat out like the Guildpact or the Saviours of Kamigawa ones. But you know, that the rules are I've got to pick one per set. So that's my decisions. I would obviously love to hear people's your decisions, your comments about which are your favorite ones from each of these sets that we've looked at in season 2. So definitely leave a like, comment, subscribe if you liked this video. Yeah, and we'll have a nice discussion down in the comments, I guess, about what you think were some of the best decks. Like if you agree with mine or like do you disagree, whatever. You know, I love reading people's comments. So as I said, sorry this one took a while to get out here. I will be back with season 3, season 4, season 5. I've just been I've taken a few runs at this one before. It is like such a big one compared to the others because there's so many sets to look at. But season 3, season 4, season 5 are all quite small, so I should be able to bang those out pretty quickly and get those here. And then, yeah, just I say it'd be fun to look at those decks again as well and talk about them. But I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, hope you leave a comment describing your favorite precons from those sets. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.